Alright, y'all, so we're on chapter 8, Mean Girls. It's not a grimy or mean school. There are trees and fields all around and nice houses in the distance, but something has taken over the girls. They stand in a ring of about 10 and keep the they stand in a ring about 10 and keep the newcomer in the middle from getting away. They are calling her names and moving in closer, pushing her. Her face is streaked with tears. Eventually it stops and they disperse, but the memory will stay with this girl forever. For years, sometimes waking her from her sleep. Damn, bullying is in the news and it seems to be happening everywhere in the adult world as well as in the world of children. Experts do not think it's an epidemic, but rather that at last people have really had enough of it and are speaking up. Bullying is being called what it is, and that's the first step to ending it. Among girls, bullying is most often done in a non-physical ways, name-calling, spreading nasty rumors online, excluding or embarrassing a girl by pulling faces or rolling eyes to make her feel stupid. This is sometimes called relational aggression, which is to say that just because you aren't getting hit doesn't mean it doesn't hurt. Physical bullying still happens too, especially among younger girls and of course from boys. At any one time, bullying affects 1 in 5 children worldwide and is so severe in some cases that it has caused suicides, shootings, and knifings. But above all, real misery for millions of boys and girls is something we have to address. Look at me, look at my life. Small but strong. The story was told to me by a mother in Wellington, New Zealand. Her daughter Carrie, age 7, was the smallest in her class, a lively and quick-minded girl who loved school. One day Carrie came home very upset. She sobbed in her mother's arms, would not eat her evening meal, but refused to talk about what had made her so unhappy. Then later that night she finally told her dad about it. A much larger girl at school had for several weeks been picking on her, pushing her out of games with her friends and then taking her place. It was annoying and scary, and more than once the girl had really hurt her arms by squeezing her hard. But the biggest hurt was a feeling of powerless humiliation. That's why she found it so hard to tell her family. But the biggest hurt was the feeling of powerless humiliation, dude. I know. That's why she found it so hard to tell her family. Kiri's dad and mom emailed the head of the school that night, labeling the email as a complaint so that it was formal and would have to be taken notice of. The next day, her dad phoned for an appointment and met with the principal the same afternoon. The principal interviewed each of the girls in the social group to get more of the picture. He then met with the girl who was doing the bullying and Kiri together and asked the girl to apologize and promise to stop. Rather graciously, Kiri said that it had not happened as much lately. Under this much scrutiny and with the impact of the interview, which was done in a thoughtful way and not punitive or angry in tone, the bullying stopped. It didn't escape Kiri's parents that it was her dad she had told about her problem. Kiri was one of the 5 children and her dad was quite a busy man. But he decided this was a kind of reaching out for him, and so he decided to do more with his daughter. He and Kiri started going swimming together at a center nearby. This was not something he or she had ever done before, and they had both really enjoyed it. She gained confidence in deep water and began to enjoy swimming at school, too, because she was now more familiar with it. She also really loved the time with her dad. Kiri's sense of self-worth visibly grew. I want to do that with my daughter. That's why I can't, even though I don't know, even though I have nowhere to go, I can't quit, you know, I can't take myself out. In short, the response of everyone turned the situation into one that increased Kiri's confidence and turned the crisis into an opportunity to grow. I like going swimming at the gym, but I can't really afford to go to, I guess I could go to the gym, but it takes 3. There are always 3 parts to a bullying situation. First, the perpetrator. This is usually someone who is feeling badly about themselves who gets to feel better by passing on their pain to someone else. Research into the children who bully has found that they suffer more from depression and are also more prone to suicide in later life. The girl who bullied Carrie was a bit of a loner who was having a difficult time at home. It's likely this girl envied Carrie for her happiness in a circle of friends, but also, since she was small, saw Carrie as someone she could easily push around. The second part is the victim. Carrie did not deserve to be bullied, but she gained strength and it's likely she would speak up more for herself in the future. The evidence suggests that it doesn't work to hit back with bullies. Often they are bigger or there are a group of them. But verbally responding, being angry, and of course asking for help, as well as being definite about your rights to not be pushed around, they all help. Finally, there are bystanders. If they speak up and eject the bullying, stand alongside the victim, and if need be, tell others what is happening, bullying often stops. This is hard because sometimes girls feel that if they do this, they will become the next victim. Talk to your daughter about how important it is to protect others who are less strong or confident. and tell her what she can say to intervene. Things like, hey, that's not fair. She's my friend. Leave her alone and stop being stupid. You're hurting her. Along with some confident body language. In Kiri's case, the school responded well and gave the situation time and energy. The head of the school saw it as a chance to improve the connectedness between himself and the children. Create a safer environment and do it in a non-pushing way. The staff also discussed how they could meet the needs of the bullying girl too, because she was clearly having a hard time in her life. The three-part solution is important. The victim becomes more confident, sometimes by receiving more long-term support and finding ways to develop her sense of power. In Kiri's case, this came more from one-to-one time with her dad. The bully becomes more aware of the feelings of others, but also of her own feelings. She may be in a lot of pain and needs some real care. And the community around the problem, the school or family or workplace, is changed by people talking more honestly about what is happening and not just ignoring it. Speaking up, Rosaline Wiseman is world famous for her book about bullying and girls called Queen Bees and Wannabes. Rosaline is like the auntie you always wanted, friendly, straight talking, and absolutely clear in her advice. She taught self-defense classes to girls for many years, and the girls often shared with their social and personal problems with bullying and cliques. She now campaigns full-time for dignity and how people treat each other. Her advice is extraordinarily clear. To a 13-year-old teased by a boy using obscene language about her breast size, she says, write down exactly what he says to you and where and when and your feelings about it. Get it all down. Take it to the smartest and best school counselor, teacher, and administrator that you know at your school and ask them to help. You absolutely have the right to not be talked to like that. An aunt and mother ask her about sexy text messages that their 14-year-old girl has been sending to boys. No, an aunt and mother ask her about sexy text messages that their 14-year-old girl has been sending to boys. Wiseman dismisses the privacy concerns completely. You own the mobile phone and pay the bills. You own that phone, but more than that, texting is not private. Anyone can read texts or pass them on. If you want to be private, use a diary. Texting is public behavior and parents need to know about it. While being very clear about the need to intervene, Wiseman is empathetic with both sides of the situation. She points out that the girl wants to sound sexy, interesting, and grown up to these boys. From her viewpoint, that's what she is doing. To the boys, it sounds like she is advertising her availability to actually do those things she is texting. Maybe this is true or not, but it's a parent's job to intervene protectively. Parents have a better handle on consequences. Yeah, they're more wiser, they know what can happen. They can do this sensitively and kindly, but with a clear boundary. The importance of bystanders. Bystanders. Wiseman's work has also underscored the importance of bystanders. In 2011, she helped make a documentary for NBC television program Dateline. In a powerful and revealing experiment, teenage girls were brought into the studio and left in a large room to choose clothes, supposedly for a segment about fashion choices. Unknown to others, 3 of the girls in each group were professional actors. On cue, 2 of them began to bully the third, in one instance about her weight and another about her choice of clothes, to see how the other girls would react. Would they help or would they join in? Meanwhile, their parents watched from another room. What unfolded was a powerful moving. Since almost all of us have been bullied in our lives, it's hard to watch without being affected. In some of the instances, the bystanders spoke up. One girl in particular was wonderful to watch. She simply would not allow the actors to speak rudely to the third girl. But in other instances, girls who were nervous and unsure of themselves actually joined in the laughter. A typical strategy of bullies is to recruit others into their gang as a prelude to picking on someone else. And it's easy for insecure girls to fall in with this behavior out of their own fear of exclusion. Their mothers cringed as they watched on a monitor in the next room and saw their daughters joining in the mockery and not doing anything to stop it. But the final incident was the most touching. In the final group to go through the experiment, one girl could be seen on camera silently walking away and weeping. The film's producers immediately stopped and intervened, and emerged that this girl was being actively bullied at school and in real life by both girls and boys who targeted her for being poor. She was physically afraid each day she went to school. She had not been able to tell her mother because it would make her mom feel worse about their low income. It was a powerful movement as the mothers returned to the room. And it was all discussed. Rosaline Wiseman helped this girl privately after the sessions to learn to deal with her attackers. And the program reported that she had successfully stood up to a boy. And girl who had been ringleaders at her school. It was a stark reminder of how cruelty arises so easily and needs to be dealt with by bystanders first, but by adults as well, in sending clear signals and always following through. Everyone experiences bullying. It's important to understand that we are all bullies sometimes, we are all victims sometimes, and we are all bystanders sometimes who do not and do intervene. It's a natural and important part of getting along with others. So it says, and we are all bystanders sometimes who do or do not intervene. It's a natural and important part of getting along with others that we learn to assert what we need, express opinions, and stand up for ourselves. It's important for your daughter to have some things to say when others push her around. I don't like you doing that. You need to stop. A worldwide program called Rock and Water was developed after bullies actually killed a boy in Holland, and there was an outcry to make changes in schools. Rock and Water teaches kids skills such as how to stand at their full height, make strong eye contact, and walk away while looking back at the aggressor. It's a complete program in self-confidence and physical safety. But the essence of his message is standing strong. Teach your daughters to be able to say, that's bullying and that's not right. Of course, that won't always stop what's happening, but it's the first step. Name what is happening. You're bullying her, or you're bullying me. That isn't right. That's unfair. That's not cool. If bullying continues, go and get help. Tell your daughter clearly that she has a right to be safe and respected, and make it real. Follow up with the school if need be. And don't stay at a school that doesn't take sufficient action. Your child's school should have a program addressing bullying, making it clearly understood and identified so everyone knows what to do and how to get help. The world has bullied women and girls as a group for thousands of years. The world has bullied women and girls as a group for thousands of years. Standing up for yourself as a girl is part of a historic change. Too, that's another good reason to do it. Cyberbullying. With the advent of social media, Facebook, texting, email, and Twitter, a whole new kind of bullying has been made possible. Sending horrible texts and spreading rumors or cruel comments online has been widespread. The worst thing is that girls who have their mobile phone or computer in their bedroom feel they should check on what's happening when they're at home or late at night when they're in bed. In the good old days before computers or smartphones, home was at least a haven of peace until the next day. The result was a lot of stress and sleeplessness. That's sad. They still carry it with them. It's a good idea to not allow digital media in bedrooms and to have a rule that all members of the family charge and leave their phones in the kitchen each night. But once again, messaging of a threatening or ugly kind should not just be kept private. Not responding to minor examples may cause it to stop. But if it persists or is especially nasty, it needs to be taken up with the school or the provider. Also, you don't have to make yourself available to it. Change privacy settings, unfriend people who aren't being friendly, change your number or get a new email address. In an excellent movie about girls growing up, The Descendants, starring George Clooney, a distant dad is forced to care for his daughters after his wife has a boating accident. Early in the movie, his younger daughter is involved in sending mean texts to a girl at school about her weight. The girl's mother, a feisty Hawaiian, demands an apology from daughter and father. The cyberbullying was done out of a kind of blindness to its consequence. It just felt to her like a joke shared by a group of friends. She realizes the harm she has done and is somewhat ashamed. But it helps that her father also was embarrassed and shows it and is eager to fix it. Sometimes talking to the person doing it or their parents can be done in a reasonable, friendly way by you or by your school. And it can bring about some growing up. Where is the meanness coming from? Maggie Hamilton, an Australian writer about girls, Maggie Hamilton, an Australian writer about girls lives. Maggie Hamilton, an Australian writer about girls' lives, has a very good explanation of how meanness has arisen in girl culture today. Maggie believes that girls who are deeply stressed by the pressure to conform to our highly competitive and insecure world begin to operate in survival mode, constantly anxious and hyper-vigilant. They don't get enough love at home, have grown up too fast, and are constantly on edge. As a result, they do not have the time or place for empathy or kindness. Bullying expert Kate Hadwin and her team at Edith Cowan University in Perth, Western Australia, surveyed many thousands of children in schools across the state and found that about 1 in 5 bullies is not responsive to ordinary appeals to empathy. In other words, ordinary programs will not work with them. These kids will require long-term intervention and are at risk of both doing a lot of harm and ending up in a lot of trouble. This rather chilling fact means that adults have to be willing to intervene, as kids themselves will not be safe unless action is taken long-term to monitor the problem. While the mean girls culture has received a lot of attention, it's important to realize that most school environments are not like that at all. When Queen Bees and Wannabes became a bestseller, hundreds of girls wrote to Rosalind Wiseman to tell her they recognized exactly the world she described. But then something interesting happened. more girls and women wrote saying that their girlhood was nothing like this, it began to be clear that Wiseman was writing about a particular sector of America, the UK and Australia, and every developed industrial nation that was not representative of the whole, at least not yet. Girls in these better environments still had friendship groups and some degrees of status competition. The popular cool girls, the more study-oriented girls, the gentler, more bohemian kids, and so on, but they were not, by and large, mean to each other, and the boundaries were more flexible. You could move about, and more importantly, you could be yourself. It was kinder, more happy, and relaxed. Often the mean girls are found more at the extremes of society, on the one hand, in the more affluent demographic, but also the more competitive one, where parents are financially better off but are time and poor and less engaged. Are financially better off but are time poor, so they don't spend a lot of time with their kids, and less engaged. These girls have smartphones and credit cards and sometimes their own cars, but they do not have a whole lot of love. By contrast, some meanness comes from serious poverty and hardship, where parents are too busy or absent, and aggression is a common coping device. But this is not always so. There are poor kids who are also very kind and rich kids who are protective and gentle. There was always freedom to choose what kind of person you will be. In a nutshell, bullying affects about 1 in 5 children. It's way too common and causes a lot of pain. Stopping bullying requires change in all three players: the victim, the perpetrator, and bystanders. The role of the bystanders is critical, and your daughters can learn to be one who prevents others from being bullied. Cyberbullying has become a problem because it can be done at a distance. Dealing with it involves shortening that distance by communicating the hurt and concern back to the perpetrator. Adults need to know about bullying and to act when it is occurring, but not in a way that makes it worse. Calm, friendly, but determined action is best. Some girl cultures are mean because of the lack of love in that demographic. There are plenty of girl cultures that are healthy and supportive. Oh yeah, that was the end of that chapter, chapter 8. That was the end of chapter 8. Mean girls.